All right. Thanks, guys, for joining today. This is again, our Thursday training. So every Thursday, 4 o'clock Central, we're going to continue to do the training. And as you guys know, we changed it from a webinar, more of a lecture type, to a meeting. So the reason why we did that is we wanted the opportunity for collaboration. That's one of the big things I've always talked about was collaboration, opportunity to share ideas, open up for questions. So if people have questions, feel free to either put it in the chat. I've got a separate monitor for chats. If you have a question, just kind of raise the hand first, and if it's a pointed time that I can answer the question or take the question, I will. But the one thing I will say is that this is your meeting. I want to make sure that you guys know that we're here to at Valor here to help you kind of grow your practice and understand that the different things are out there. So I want to also share with you too. The big thing that I'm doing now is I'm going across the country. So for those who saw back, I want to say in May, we did a great collaboration. So the idea of the collaboration was you didn't have to be a part of Valor to witness this opportunity. This was for anybody who wanted to come. And the idea was is that we give some sales ideas, some opportunities for you to see different ways that you can make money in this industry. So I've been in the industry for 18 years. I've done different things. I've worked with financial advisors, independent agents. So I got a lot of background and history on what I can do and what I can offer. And so the big thing that I talked about with the great collaboration was different ways that you can make money in this industry and not necessarily having to be FINRA licensed because in my personal opinion, FINRA is getting kind of out of hand with all the different rules and regulations. It's just hindering people from, I don't know, actually doing right for clients just because you have a few bad eggs. And so everything that we talk about, all the relationships that I bring to the table are all based on non-FINRA based solutions. And so we're going across the country to take that great collaboration, which was a full day. It was a packed day. It was a full day. And we're going to do micro great collaborations across the country. So this is for you guys as well. So agents who want to learn more, get some sales ideas, refresh the old noggin on some stuff maybe you didn't know or don't remember. For you agency managers, this is a chance for you to bring people to an event that's free for them to go to and ultimately see if they want to partner up. We are truly independent. There are no fees to join. There's no fees for new licenses or Sure LC or anything like that. And very, very, very competitive compensations. Again, especially for those who are, really looking for that opportunity to grow without having the confines of different types of parameters. So on the 17th of August, I will be in Chicago doing the great collaboration. I will actually be in Chicago from the 15th and I go home the morning of the 18th. So I'll have a couple extra days there. But if you're looking to go to the event, you could go to TGC Conference. So TGC stands for the Great Collaboration Conference.com. And you just go to Chicago, Illinois for upcoming events. And you can register here. There's literally 30 spots, and we have about 10 already occupied. So there's 20 left. We're going to one of my agents has a client, and he has a imaging center, and so we're going to the imaging center to do that. So we're gonna have chairs out and everything, but that'll be a little intimate. Then we have Orlando coming up on the 31st, and this will be done at the Orlando Public Library. So it'll be on the third floor, Albertson Room, and they can fit up to about 100 people in that. But again, these are smaller crowds. We're looking at about like 10 to 50. But once again, just an opportunity for you to see this type of strategies and things that we do at Valor in person. For those of you who want to build out agencies, it's an opportunity for you to grow in a location and that's what I'm willing to do. Go to different areas for you guys to help you out, help you grow your organizations. So Atlanta is going to be on the 15th. That'll actually be a Sunday. I'm going down to Atlanta for a meeting with one of the niches we do is working with athletes. So we have a group on the 14th that we're going to be doing a presentation for that. And then Dallas, coming back to Dallas on the 21st. But once again, these two are to be determined on location. So more to come on that. Someone asked about the time frame for the Florida event. This is the location. The time frame is from 10 to 1. So the Chicago is 9 to 12. This is from 10 to 1. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on that. But once again, more to come on all of this. We're just going to keep continuing to grow this. So today is the start of the living benefits conversation. So the idea here is we're going to culminate with the beginning, when I say living benefits. We're going to talk about ABRs. Next week, we're going to talk about traditional long-term care. Believe it or not, some people still want traditional long-term care. How do you read it? How do you understand it? And some substantiation or facts or data to go along with that, like the reason for long-term care. Then the third week, we're going to talk about hybrid type policies. Some of you may have seen those with like Nationwide. There's the Care Matters product. But there are a few others out there, like Lincoln MoneyGuard was the first one to do it. You also have One America with their state life products, which are very unique. And then we also have Securian. So there's several options in that ballpark. So it's not always one size fits all, as we all know. And then the last week will be life insurance with long-term care riders. There are several companies who have been doing that for a long period of time. But as I kind of mentioned, from my standpoint, just to say, like, the value proposition of Valor, once again, I'm here to help you any way that I can. I've been doing this for 18 years, and I'm looking to find opportunities. Really, that's why I left corporate, is so I could serve and help people on a deeper level and not be bound by just one bag, one product. So we've been able to branch out and really grow this, and I'm very excited for where we are going as well. So today we're going to talk about different types of ABRs for different clients. What is an ABR? What types that we have available, and really how we can help our clients. So really, it all boils down to an action step. So talk about ABRs. What are ABRs? It's an accelerated benefit rider. Traditionally, what ABRs used to be was just terminal illness. But I want to say, you started to see a boom of opportunity in the living benefit or ABR space when they started adding chronic and critical illness riders. So that really accelerated, no pun intended, or pun intended, it accelerated the opportunity for life insurance to be seen more, to provide a value, because intrinsically thinking, and if I use that word correctly, internally as us as humans, we're selfish in nature. We want something for us. No one wants to think about a death benefit to give to someone else. We want to be concerned with what happens to us, and sadly, that is a part of the human nature. And this is what really ties into that. You don't have to die to use your life insurance, and it provides peace of mind during a difficult time, and can help you maintain that standard of living. And typically there are no additional costs to these type of riders. So that is the norm for this. So we first look at chronic illness, going top left to right, down and over. You have activities of daily living. So when you think about activities of daily living with chronic illness, that is, you can't perform 2 out of 6 of these. So it's bathing, eating, dressing, toileting, transferring incontinence. And a lot of people don't think about how easy or how often you use all of those. Matter of fact, you probably use all 6 of them in probably the first hour to 2 hours that you wake up. For example's sake, most people when they wake up, they usually have to use the loo or the bathroom, so they got transfer there. They have to maintain continence, and then after that, they probably eat breakfast, go take a shower, and then dress themselves and off for the day. So as you can see, some of those can be very, you know, important when you think about it, and you have 2 out of 6 of those that you can't do. Now you're chronically ill. Another one towards the latter part of your life, you'd think, is things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's, cognitive impairments, things that involve some extensive type of care. Okay, so that's where the cognitive impairments come in. And what's needed from these chronic illness riders typically is a certification from a licensed health practitioner. It's usually done within the last 12 months of what has happened. And in certain situations, carriers now have redefined their idea of chronic illness. So in the past, one of the things that really separated traditional long-term care and chronic illness riders was temporary versus permanent and temporary, or excuse me, temporary versus permanent. And because long-term care, you can be temporary or permanent. And in the olden days, chronic illness was just permanent, but they redefined it. A lot of people just rewrote the way that they worded the chronic illness rider and added that temporary feature to it as well. Critical illness, this is one of the reasons why I bought a policy with living benefits. For this very reason, when you talk about the idea of a critical illness, you're talking um, qualifying illnesses, heart attack, stroke, cancer, paralysis, coma, or third degree burns, things like that that can really cause an impact. But more or less, it's a short term impact compared to a longer term impact, like we had with the chronic illness riders. And that's why when we look at this, it has to be seen within the last 365 days since the claim is received. And just to give some statistics again to substantiate the idea of how important this is, and you think about a heart attack and even stroke as well, both have about every 40 seconds in the United States, someone is having a heart attack or a stroke. And that's 40 seconds for each. It's not either or, it's 40 seconds for each. 85% of heart attack victims actually survive. And so now, what type of quality of living do you have after something like that? Stroke is the leading reason for long-term disability. And there are more than 200 types of cancer. That's crazy. So when you think about it, one of the big things that's been looming around as well, especially in the United States, is diabetes. A lot of people on this call can probably resonate with that, knowing people who have gotten it. I've seen some issues with it, but it can lead to other things like kidney failure, heart attack, retinal concerns, as well as stroke. So one thing can lead to the other. And so that's why I implore people who find out maybe through a medical exam they have diabetes, or they find out some way, shape, or form that they have it, more the reason why we need these critical illness riders. And I know I spelled critical wrong, so I will fix that. So in case someone wanted to point that out, I already saw it. Last but not least, terminal illness. So certified by a physician, reasonably expected to pass away within 24 months from the date of diagnosis. Some states, like Florida, is a 12-month bogey, just for example's sake. So if you have, and all of this has to be documented by a licensed practitioner. So you think about the situation, as soon as there's a diagnosis, then at that point you would enact. A good example of a living benefit story that I'll give you one for terminal, and I'll give you one for chronic or for critical as well. So the terminal, I worked with an agent out of Tampa, and he had a client who had a $50,000 policy. It was about $6,000 in cash, and she called up the agent and said, "I need to surrender the policy." And so he said, "Well, what do you need to surrender the policy for?" and she wanted to explain that she was diagnosed with, a terminal illness of sort, probably stage 4 cancer, and she had some doctor's bills that she had to pay, and the $6,000 was going to pay for the doctor's bills, but instead they filed a claim under the terminal illness, and out of that $50,000, the client got about $46,000, give or take. And so, power of what was needed versus what was actually provided, it was amazing to hear that story, because it really helped ease the burden of what that person was going through. On the flip side, so critical illness, there was a situation where I had a agent that I used to work with, and she got a policy at the beginning of January of 22, and she was preferred best. She was actually mad because she had to do a full underwriting, and I told her, I was like, "Hey, at least you get a free exam and everything." Well, come May, this is about a month or two before I left my prior company, calls me up and says, "Phil, I gotta tell you something." I was like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Well, I just went to the doctor and found out I have not one, but two different types of breast cancer." And so we kept in touch after I left, and kind of heard her story and her journey, and she made it through, no problem. But the interesting thing was is that $1 million term that she bought in January of 22, she decided to cash out that policy in April of the following year. Like, she had medical coverage and everything, but she wanted to, use whatever money she could get for some other things, and found out that she was going to get $400,000 in tax-free cash, to cash out that policy. So the idea here is that these stories are what's needed to kind of tell people why it's so important to have these living benefits, and that's why I like to overemphasize that. Share some stories. You can use them if you don't have any stories of your own, but it's very impactful. Now, when we talk about the living benefits too, what I always like to say is this is kind of like a safety parachute, worst case scenario, because a lot of these, what's going to happen is you're going to accelerate it, and it's going to basically eliminate your death benefit. Some are not. So in the examples today, we're going to focus on three. We're going to focus on AIG or Corebridge. We're going to focus on Columbus, and we're going to focus on North American. Reason being is I feel like those are the ones who have the biggest, I guess you could say, hold on the industry. I could say National Life Group too, but National Life Group and the AIG products or Corebridge are pretty much the same, just some slight differences. So when you think of what I'm talking about with AIG, you'll pretty much equate the same thing to National Life Group, except for a couple bogeys or differences. So to kind of go over the AIG product itself, they call it the QOL Accelerated Benefit Riders. And you'll see here that they have the most robust amount of living benefits. They go the highest at $2 million. And that's not only for chronic, that's for critical and for terminal as well. And it's for all risk classes. So that's one thing that I'd say really separates them from the competition, is you could have the best risk class or the worst risk class, and you're still going to get all of the living benefits. And I think that's one thing that is very important when you talk to people. Some people who have substandard risk classes are like, "Oh, the price is so expensive." Well, guess what? You're probably going to need it more than someone who got a preferred plus. But the situation at hand, you just have to kind of explain why the carrier is given a substandard risk classes versus a standard or preferred. Which, by the way, most people don't realize, but usually the preferred best risk class is for like the top 20% of people. It's not meant because if you've never taken any medications, you magically will get preferred plus. Some people have this misnomer that if you're perfectly healthy or you feel perfectly healthy, you're going to get preferred plus. That's not always the case. So we'll do another session at another time about field underwriting. But but yeah, so those are some of the key perks with AIG or the Corebridge QOL product. Now to kind of equate that to National Life Group, they only go to 1.5, 1.5, 1.5, and they stop at table D for the chronic, standard for critical. So National Life Group actually has the ability to take off living benefits if they feel that they don't want to provide those for the client. So that is pretty common because you'll see in all of the other categories for underwriting risk class, everybody feels the same way about that to some certain extent, either table D, table C, except for the Corebridge product. So that's why I say there's minor differences between NLG and AIG, but they work the same. And when I say they work the same, I want you to think of it this way. So we'll use that past example of someone who had $1 million policy and they got $400,000 in cash. Now, what does that mean? That means that the other 600,000 goes away and the client feels slighted that that they lost that 600K. Well, that's not the actual situation. The actual situation is that if you think of how this is this person is still alive. Okay, they bought a death benefit for hopefully much later on in their life. Well, in the scenario here, now their life got cut short because they had cancer. You know, cancer is bound to potentially come back. And so in that situation, the carrier, Corebridge in this scenario, evaluated the life, basically said, okay, if we took this $1 million pool that this client had in death benefit and gave them the lump sum today, what would it be that in, say, it was 20 years from now? So she had 20 years left of life that they anticipate. What could I give them today that they would hit $1 million if they invested it in, say, like a 7% return? So that's the idea, is you get a present value of the money with AIG National Life Group. They're giving you a present value of your future death benefit that you can use today. The lotto works very similar to that. So if you, I don't like to equate this to the lottery, but you know, someone buys a Mega Millions ticket and the Mega Millions is $100 million and they hit, most people say, I want to take the lump sum, which would be like $40 million. It's not the 100 million because they would put that into an annuity and pay you out over 30 years. You didn't know that's how the lotto works? That's how the lotto works. So when people take the lump sum, they're getting the present value of that money, not the future value, which is the total number. So that's what you get with AIG and National Life Group. Columbus is a very easy process to understand. There are flyers on their website. It's literally like the cash value that you have inside the policy, plus the percentage that you see there of the death benefit equals the living benefit claim amount. It's a very cut and dry situation. There's no underwriting on the back end. So with AIG, there is, and National Life Group, there is underwriting on the back end because they're assessing your life value. That also means that if you lied on the application and you think the 2-year contestability is over, it's not, because that's 2-year contestability for death benefit. But if you had a stroke and you didn't admit it, and then 10 years from now you had a stroke and you filed a claim and they saw you had prior history, they'll send you your premium back, like the policy never existed. But Columbus, you don't have to worry about that, because Columbus, you just basically file the claim and then they figure out the factor. As long as you, once again, have it by a health practitioner, you're good to go. So they have just a different factor to give you those monies. North American, as you can see on theirs, they have the lesser of 24% or $240,000 per year. So they're going to give you an acceleration of your death benefit over a duration of time. It's not just a lump sum. But if you have, for example, sake that $1 million and the client wanted or needed 400K today versus 240K this year, then 240K next year, and then the next year, therein lies the question. That's why I said in the beginning, different ABRs for different people. You have to understand your client and make sure you give them the right opportunity. The UL for critical illness, that's a big factor. So you'll see that the UL is 25% of death benefit or 50K. That's per occurrence. So if you have a heart attack once and you want to file a claim and you get that 50K, your death benefit's down 950, and you got that 50K as an acceleration. You use it, you get another heart attack a few years from now, you can file it again, get that 50K. With Corebridge National Life Group, if you file a claim and let's say they offer you 400K and you only take 100K, so you took a quarter of the offer and you kept some death benefit, well, if you have a heart attack again, you can't file a claim again because you already hit it once. And so that's another difference there is, do you want it all up front? Do you want it over time? Do you want more, less? These are all questions that, you have to have a strict conversation with your client because all living benefits are not created equal. For the question, we will have these. If you want the actual deck, let me know. It's a large file. So for the question of, do we have these materials? I'm going to post this on YouTube after, so you'll have this after. But if you want the actual deck, just reach out to me and I'll email it to you. So some examples. What I did, yeah, the chart, that's fine. So some examples. So the living benefit portfolio or illustration, and Tiffany, I'll get to you in just a sec. Actually, you know what, Tiffany, what's your question? I'll answer it right now.
Hey, Bill, thank you. Quick question.
Yeah.
Can you go back one slide? Okay, yeah, that one. So in this example, so that I'm understanding correctly, North American is the only one that actually does multiple occurrences.
Columbus can as well. So it's that, yeah, you can as well. So that's just the wanted to give you some flair as to why North American is a good solution. Now, when you talk about competitiveness, the best term products you have here is 1, 2, and 3. Because Columbus, I'm going to be honest, their term might be okay, but they pay like crap. So it's really not that competitive. They really don't want term. Anaco got out of the term business. Allianz doesn't have it. F&G doesn't have it. And Transamerica is okay. So, that's why I say there's certain carriers that you would look at more often than not, especially for term. But usually the bell cows are going to be, AIG, MLG, and North American. Just depending on the rating for the client, which we can always, again, go through X-ray on the 3Mark portal or something like that to figure out who's going to give them the best offer. But
that's helpful.
Does that help?
One more quick follow-up. Absolutely, definitely helpful. Thank you. So have you seen in your experience thus far where someone has the multiple occurrences and they have been quote unquote dropped?
No, I have seen where someone lied. So I kind of mentioned that the 2-year duration. We had a client who bought a term with AIG, and 5 years later, she filed a claim for stroke, and she had a history of TIAs, and they basically refunded her the money. Now, sadly, it's for one of my bigger accounts, and the agent was irate because this person was an influencer. They were going to blast him on Instagram and all this other stuff. And really, at the end of the day, I was like, listen, we can't be held liable that your client lied. It's pretty blatant. So we couldn't take it back. So I haven't seen anyone dropped, for multiple because as long as, and it goes back to us as agents, to really provide that value proposition to our consumer, that we're going to put everything on the application. If you slip one past the goalie and you get caught, it is what it is. So, but yeah, those are great questions.
Thank you.
No problem. So, living benefits, just to give you some examples, I took a 45-year-old and I did just a basic protection product. Okay. So all carriers have protection accumulation products, except for Columbus, they only have one, which they're working on. But you'll see here, this is the first page after the cover page of the living benefit story. Now you'll see the same phraseology with all carriers: die too soon, need or desire to end the coverage, you have cash, you live too long, or you get sick along the way. So getting sick along the way is the living benefit story. Now, in the past, the QOL was criticized for, how much am I going to get? Well, I don't know. It just depends, And so they're saying that at the age of 65, this could be the hypothetical range on a $500,000 policy. So you see the higher range there: 358,000, 393,000, or 456 for your, terminal illness. So they've added this to the front to give a little more clarity for people who had a concern on not knowing what you're going to get. And really, the perk on the lower numbers, good news, Mr. and Mrs. Client, your qualifying illness didn't impact your life as much. So they're saying, without saying it, that you're going to live a long life. It was just a fluke, so to speak. But on the flip side is if you get the higher amount, good news, client, they gave you a lot of money. The sad part is it's based on life expectancy. So anticipation is you're going to pass sooner than later. Between us agents. So North American, as I said, you have a $50,000 bogey. That is either a percentage or 50,000. So in this scenario, the critical illness is only 20,000 for lump sum. So once again, you're talking to a client, you have the opportunity for critical illness, getting a low end of 100,000, an upper end of 400,000. But over here, you're talking critical 20,000. But if you file the claim again, or you want to keep your death benefit, that's why I say it's important to understand some of the differences between the living benefits. And then lastly, what we have here is the Columbus product. And, as you can see, everybody is following the phraseology or the design that you'll see here. Again, National Life Group is the originator of it, but everyone kind of is plagiarizing without plagiarizing. So, in this scenario, this is the beginning of the presentation for the IUL for them. Shows supplemental income if you want cash accumulation or cash value, and then precise numbers based upon the cash value that's illustrated in the illustration. So what I would say is once again, the idea here is in kind of wrapping this all up in a bow, is there are different products and different opportunities. What you really want to know is at least pick 2 or 3 carriers that have different types of living benefits, so you can have an educated conversation with the client, because at the end of the day, it's up to the client when they pick it. We should make it so compelling that they pick the product. You're not selling them the product, because that, my friends, helps you on the back end in case they want to try and sue you saying you did something wrong. You said, I showed you these options and this is the one you picked. The documentation is key as well. And so what I would say is, in closing, one thing that's important is time for action. What are action steps? Who should we look for these type of solutions? It should be pretty obvious. Anybody who has children, a spouse or significant other, A mortgage. I forgot to put mortgage on there. Same reasons you'd buy term insurance is the same reasons you do living benefits. Because guess what? You might not be dead, but the bills still don't stop. And so when you think about that, you want to protect those that you are taking care of. A job, if you have a job, that means a paycheck. A homemaker. So a lot of people have not really thought about that. You know, oh, my wife or my husband doesn't work. I don't need this policy on them because they don't work. Well, I tell you, 10 years of living in Nashville, Tennessee, I finally have gone to my kids' doctors just this like 2 weeks ago because they want to see both of us. And, you know, if it wasn't for my wife, you know, doing what she does, I couldn't do what I do. And so when you think about that, if something happened to her, whether chronic, critical, terminal, or passing, we're going to need something to help me take care of my two kids. And that's why I say it's so important to even think of a homemaker should not be excluded from this just because they don't have an income coming in. People close to retirement, that's another one. So you think about a long-term care conversation, usually in the 40s and up. So when you think about that situation, people who really want to understand that during retirement, it's not always the total amount that you accumulated, it's the spend down part that's going to really hurt you. So when you talk about unexpected concerns like health, that's where something like this will help. And again, the ABRs are like a safety parachute. You'll see why I'll say that over the coming weeks with statistics and different types of products for that long-term care conversation. But these are the things that really helped revitalize the whole insurance industry with the living benefits. And so what I would say is that you can simply write down clients in this scenario, just, hey, you know, so-and-so, it's Phil, I was, you know, on the seminar about some really cool strategies for people who have, you know, married, who have kids, and it made me think of you. And I want to know if we could talk for just 15 minutes and just open up the conversation. So it doesn't have to be lengthy or verbose, but just the opportunity to really get back in front of people and let them know how important they are to their family, how important they are to everything, is just, you know, ideal for this total situation. So really that's it for this. If you want to receive a copy of this, um, you know, let me know. I saw, you know, someone asked for a chart only. I can send the chart only if that's all you really care about. All my hard work, I get it. I get it. You know, but no. The other thing too is just another quick reminder that you know, please, if you are planning on attending one of these events, whether Chicago, Orlando, Atlanta, or Dallas, we have the times and the locations for these two. Um, and we're going to have the times and locations within the next week or two for Georgia and Texas. So it's going to be a 3-hour workshop, sales ideas, you know, the three silos of valor, as I always say, the life annuity side, the ACA Medicare side, and the alternative investments. And then we'll give sales ideas for people who want to walk away with some ideas on how to spark conversation with clients. So any last questions? I saw, you know, Prasanna, I saw you request the worksheet too. So I got you. Any questions about what you saw, about the great collaboration or anything? Well, I won't belabor the point. So I appreciate the time. Appreciate the opportunity. We'll see you again next week, 4 o'clock Central Time, and we're going to talk about traditional long-term care. And yeah, Priya, do we have sign-in letter emails to these events? They are on the site. So if you wanted to I can send out also flyers for the events. And I know you're in Atlanta, so as soon as I get it, I'll let you know. But we'll create flyers as well as social media posts, as well as on the website, it'll have the register now. So more to come with all that. So have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend if we don't talk. And once again, appreciate the time. Take care, guys.